Marcus Thompson stood in front of the mirror, adjusting his tie for what felt like the 100th time. The reflection staring back at him was a mix of confidence and anxiety. He wore a tailored navy suit that accentuated his tall, athletic build, and his crisp white shirt contrasted sharply with his dark skin. As he practiced his pitch one last time, the words rolled off his tongue with the grace of a seasoned performer. "This is not just a business proposal. It's a movement," he muttered to himself, trying to drown out the gnawing doubts in the back of his mind. The living room was buzzing with energy, filled with the laughter and chatter of friends and family. They had gathered to show their support, their excitement palpable. His mother, a pillar of strength, leaned against the kitchen counter, her hands cupping a steaming mug of herbal tea. "Marcus, remember to breathe. You've got this," she said, her voice soothing yet firm. "Thanks, Mom," he replied, offering her a reassuring smile. "I'll make you proud today." He could feel her eyes on him, filled with unwavering belief that he would succeed. His best friend, Jamal, clapped him on the back, his exuberance infectious. "You're gonna crush it, man. Just be yourself. They'll see how brilliant you are," Jamal said, his enthusiasm cutting through Marcus's nervousness. "Right, just be myself," Marcus echoed, though the pressure of the moment made it feel easier said than done. He glanced at the clock on the wall, noting the time ticking away. "I should head out." As he stepped outside, the brisk morning air bit at his skin, a stark contrast to the warmth of his home. The drive to the investment firm was filled with quiet determination. He rehearsed his speech in his mind, imagining the board's faces lighting up with understanding and excitement as he unveiled his innovative ideas. Upon arriving, the sleek glass facade of the building loomed before him, a monument to corporate ambition. Marcus took a moment to gather himself before entering, pushing the door open with a firm resolve. Inside, the atmosphere was cold and sterile, a far cry from the warmth of his family home. He was escorted to the boardroom, where the predominantly white panel of investors awaited him. Their expressions ranged from disinterest to mild curiosity. As he began his presentation, detailing his business plan aimed at addressing the needs of underserved communities, he noticed their skepticism creeping in. "Marcus, can you tell us a little more about your background?" One of the investors, a middle-aged man with thinning hair and a patronizing smile, interjected. "Of course," Marcus replied, his pulse quickening. "I grew up in a neighborhood that lacked access to essential resources, which inspired me to create this solution. I believe—" "Interesting," the man interrupted again, leaning back in his chair. "But what makes you think you can compete with the established companies in this space?" The question felt like a punch to the gut. "I've done extensive market research, and I have a unique approach that—" "Unique? Or just different?" Another investor chimed in, crossing her arms. With every question, the weight of their skepticism bore down on him like a heavy blanket. Despite his well-prepared presentation and the passion in his voice, he could sense the underlying racial bias, the doubt that stemmed not from his ideas but from his skin color. After what felt like an eternity, the board members exchanged glances, their verdict already sealed. "Thank you for your time, Marcus," the lead investor said, his tone dismissive. "We'll be in touch." Stunned, Marcus gathered his materials and walked out of the boardroom, the humiliation stinging like a slap. He fought back tears, the bitterness of rejection coating his throat. Outside, he leaned against the cool metal of his car, breathing heavily. Jamal arrived moments later, concern etched on his face. "Dude, what happened in there?" "It was bad, Jamal. They didn't even consider my ideas. They just kept questioning my background and if I was qualified enough," Marcus said, his voice thick with emotion. Jamal shook his head, anger flashing in his eyes. "That's the reality we face, man. It's not about your talent. It's about their perception." Marcus nodded, feeling the fire of determination igniting within him. "I'm done trying to fit into their mold. I'm going to build something of my own, something that proves them wrong." "Now you're talking. Let's show them what we're made of," Jamal replied, a grin breaking through the tension. As they stood there, the weight of the world on Marcus's shoulders began to lift. He realized that this was just the beginning of a journey he never anticipated, one that would test his resilience and redefine success on his own terms. Marcus Thompson sat at his small desk, cluttered with sketches and notes, the sunlight filtering through the window, creating a warm glow around him. He was in the early stages of developing his startup, a tech company aimed at providing innovative solutions for underserved communities. Despite the initial excitement, doubt crept in. The sting of rejection still lingered, and every sound from the busy street below felt like a reminder of the uphill battle he faced. "Marcus, you need to step away from that desk," Jamal called from the living room, his voice breaking through the fog of concentration. Marcus looked up, momentarily lost in thought. Jamal had been his rock since the disastrous pitch meeting, always pushing him to keep moving forward. "I know, I just want to refine this proposal a little more before I start reaching out for funding again," Marcus replied, running a hand through his hair in frustration. "You've been at it for hours. How about we grab some lunch?" "You can't think on an empty stomach," Jamal suggested, stretching his arms and casually leaning against the doorframe. Marcus chuckled softly. "You're right. A break might do me some good." He stood up, stretching his back, and grabbed his jacket. As they made their way to a nearby cafe, the air was filled with the sounds of the bustling city, a stark contrast to the quiet determination that filled Marcus's mind. Over lunch, Marcus shared his ideas for the startup, his passion evident in every word. "I want to create a platform that connects local businesses with technology that can help them thrive. There are so many resources that are just out of reach for these communities," he explained, his eyes lighting up. Jamal nodded, his expression serious. "That's a powerful vision, but you need to find someone who believes in it just as much as you do." "I know. It's just every investor I've met so far only sees my race and not my potential." Marcus sighed, the frustration evident in his voice. "It's disheartening. Then let's find a way to flip the script. You need someone who's been through it, someone who understands the struggle," Jamal suggested, his mind racing with possibilities. Marcus paused, contemplating his friend's words. "You're right. I need a mentor, someone who can guide me through this." The next few days passed in a blur of research and networking. Marcus reached out to various entrepreneurs in his community, hoping to find someone who could offer him the guidance he desperately needed. After several fruitless attempts, he finally found Dr. Evelyn Carter, a successful Black entrepreneur known for her innovative approach to business and her advocacy for diversity in the tech industry. "Dr. Carter, thank you for meeting with me," Marcus said, his voice tinged with nervous excitement as they sat across from each other in a cozy cafe. "Of course, Marcus. I've heard about your ambitions, and I'm always eager to support young entrepreneurs," she replied with a warm smile. As they talked, Dr. Carter shared stories of her own struggles in the corporate world. "I faced countless rejections, often due to biases that were deeply rooted in the industry. But I learned to use that as fuel. You have to believe in your vision, even when others don't," she advised, her voice steady and reassuring. "I want to make a difference, not just for myself, but for my community," Marcus confessed, feeling a swell of determination. "Then refine your business model. Focus on how your solutions can empower others. When you pitch, make sure that passion shines through," Dr. Carter encouraged, her eyes sparkling with conviction. Armed with newfound wisdom, Marcus returned to his desk, energized and ready to rework his proposal. Days turned into weeks as he painstakingly crafted a business model that highlighted the potential impact of his tech solutions on local businesses. Each revision brought him closer to his goal, and with Dr. Carter's guidance, he felt more confident than ever. Finally ready to approach alternative investors, Marcus gathered his materials, determination coursing through him. He reached out to local angel investors, hoping to find someone who would see past his race and recognize the potential of his vision. After a series of rejections, a glimmer of hope appeared. One investor, intrigued by his approach and passion, agreed to meet. The meeting felt electric, as if the air crackled with possibility. "Marcus, I've looked over your proposal, and I have to say, I'm impressed. Your vision aligns with what we're trying to support in the community," the investor said, his tone sincere. Marcus's heart raced. "Thank you. I truly believe we can make a difference together," he replied, his voice steady despite the whirlwind of emotions inside him. With that small seed investment secured, Marcus felt as if he had crossed a threshold. The momentum began to build as he assembled a diverse team of individuals who shared his vision. Together, they began developing the product that would soon change lives, driven by the belief that innovation should be accessible to all. As they gathered in the small office, brainstorming and bouncing ideas off one another, Marcus felt a sense of belonging wash over him. This was just the beginning, and he was ready to face whatever challenges lay ahead, fueled by the hope and determination that had brought him this far. As the startup began to take shape, Marcus Thompson felt a mixture of excitement and anxiety. The office was buzzing with energy as his diverse team worked tirelessly, each member bringing their unique perspective and skills to the table. However, just as momentum was building, tragedy struck. One late afternoon, while Marcus was reviewing designs with his lead engineer, a sudden crash echoed through the office. A heavy shelf, laden with equipment, toppled over, narrowly missing Marcus but striking his colleague, Sarah, who was working nearby. The chaos that ensued was heart-stopping. Marcus rushed to Sarah's side, his heart pounding as he knelt beside her. "Sarah, can you hear me?" he shouted, panic rising in his voice. Sarah lay on the floor, unconscious, blood seeping from a gash on her forehead. The team gathered, their faces etched with shock. Marcus felt a wave of helplessness wash over him. "Call 911, he commanded, his voice steadier than he felt. As the paramedics arrived, Marcus held Sarah's hand, whispering words of encouragement, though he feared the worst. After what felt like an eternity, she was loaded into an ambulance, and Marcus watched helplessly as the doors closed, taking her away. In the days that followed, the office felt different. The laughter and chatter were replaced by a somber atmosphere. Marcus struggled to focus on work, his thoughts constantly drifting to Sarah's recovery. He visited her in the hospital, where she lay bandaged but alive. "Marcus," she smiled weakly when he entered the room, her voice barely a whisper. "I'm sorry for the mess." "Don't be ridiculous," he replied, forcing a smile. "You're the least of my worries. I just want you to get better." "I'll be out soon," she promised. "You need to keep pushing forward with the startup. We're counting on you." Her words ignited a spark within him. He realized that he couldn't let this setback derail their vision. With renewed determination, Marcus returned to the office, rallying his team. "Listen up, everyone," he called, standing on a chair to address them all. "We've faced a huge challenge, but we're not backing down. We're going to keep moving forward for Sarah and for our mission." The team erupted in applause, their spirits lifted by his fervor. They brainstormed ideas to improve safety protocols and create a more supportive work environment. The tragedy had forged a deeper bond among them, and together, they were more than just colleagues. They were a family. Weeks later, the startup gained traction, and soon Marcus received an invitation to showcase their product at a major tech conference. Excitement coursed through him as he prepared for the event. This was his chance to shine, to prove to the world that his vision mattered. On the day of the conference, Marcus stepped onto the stage, heart racing. The venue was packed with industry leaders and potential investors. As he began his presentation, he could see the faces in the audience, some intrigued, others skeptical. He poured his passion into every word, explaining how their innovative technology could uplift underserved communities. "Imagine a world where every individual has access to the tools they need to thrive," he said, his voice steady and strong. "This is not just a business, it's a movement." After the presentation, Marcus networked vigorously, engaging with influential figures in the industry. He received praise and interest, his heart swelling with hope. Conversations flowed as he shared his vision, and by the end of the day, he felt a sense of validation he had longed for. However, just as things seemed to be going well, an anonymous message appeared on his phone late one evening. The message was chilling. "Back off from certain investors. You don't know what they're capable of." Marcus stared at the screen, pulse quickening as dread settled in his stomach. He had heard whispers of exploitation, stories of black entrepreneurs who had been undermined and manipulated. But to receive a direct threat felt like a harbinger of danger, a stark reminder that the corporate world was not as welcoming as he had hoped. Realizing the gravity of the situation, he confided in Jamal, his steadfast friend and confidant. "I don't know what to do. I thought I'd finally found my footing, Marcus admitted, his voice heavy with uncertainty. Marcus, you've come too far to let fear dictate your path. If they're threatening you, it means you're making waves, Jamal replied, his tone resolute. We need to investigate this. We can't let them intimidate us. With Jamal's support, Marcus knew he had to confront this new reality head-on. The fight was far from over, and he felt an unwavering determination to expose the injustices that lurked beneath the surface of the industry. The sun dipped low on the horizon as Marcus Thompson sat across from Dr. Evelyn Carter in a cozy cafe that was becoming their unofficial meeting ground. The atmosphere buzzed with the soft hum of conversation and the aroma of freshly brewed coffee, but Marcus felt only the weight of the world pressing down upon him. After receiving the anonymous threat that warned him to steer clear of certain investors, he knew he needed guidance. Evelyn, I don't know how much longer I can keep going like this, he confessed, rubbing the back of his neck in frustration. It feels like every time I take a step forward, I'm met with 2 steps back. First, it was the rejection, and now this intimidation. I mean, who do they think they are? Dr. Carter leaned back in her chair, her expression shifting from concern to determination. Marcus, you're not alone in this. The challenges you're facing are systemic, and they've been around for far too long. But you have a platform now, and it's time to use it. Marcus looked up intrigued. What do you mean? She took a sip of her coffee before continuing. Leverage social media. Share your story. Shine a light on the issues that minority entrepreneurs face in this industry. You'd be surprised how many people are willing to rally behind you. Marcus nodded slowly, contemplating her words. You really think that could make a difference? Absolutely. It's not just about you. It's about all of us. You can initiate a movement. When people see that they're not alone, they'll find the courage to speak up, too, Dr. Carter encouraged, her voice steady and firm. With renewed resolve, Marcus spent the following days drafting posts and gathering stories from fellow entrepreneurs who had faced discrimination. He shared his own experiences, detailing the rejection and intimidation he had faced. His words resonated deeply, and soon, the hashtag #StandWithMarcus began to trend. As the campaign gained momentum, Marcus received an outpouring of support from other marginalized entrepreneurs. Stories poured in, each one a testament to the struggles they had faced within the corporate world. From subtle microaggressions to outright rejections, the tales painted a grim picture of the challenges that minority entrepreneurs had to navigate. Marcus, this is incredible, Jamal exclaimed one evening as they scrolled through the growing list of comments and shares. Look at all these people sharing their experiences. You're giving them a voice. Marcus felt a swell of pride mixed with disbelief. I never imagined it would resonate like this. I thought I was just a lone voice crying in the wilderness. You're not alone anymore, Jamal said, his eyes sparkling with enthusiasm. You're leading a movement. The media is picking it up. It's only a matter of time before those investors start feeling the pressure. Just as Jamal predicted, local news outlets began covering the movement. Interviews with Marcus and other entrepreneurs highlighted the systemic racism that persisted in the industry. The investors who had once dismissed Marcus were now under scrutiny, their actions exposed to the public eye. One afternoon, as Marcus sat in his office, his phone buzzed with an incoming call. It was an unfamiliar number, but something inside urged him to answer. Mr. Thompson, a voice on the other end began, sounding hesitant. This is Jennifer from Crestview Investments. We'd like to revisit your proposal. Marcus's heart raced. What do you mean? You rejected my ideas not long ago. Yes, I know, and I can't express how sorry we are for that. We've come to realize the mistakes we've made. We want to rectify our past decisions and offer you a chance to present your startup again. We're committed to making changes. A skeptical eyebrow arched as Marcus listened, the words stirring a mix of caution and curiosity within him. And why should I trust you now? He asked, his voice steady. We're fully aware of the backlash we're facing and the negative light we've been cast in. We understand the importance of diversity in investment, and we want to be part of the solution moving forward, Jennifer replied, desperation creeping into her tone. Marcus mulled over her words, torn between the potential opportunity and the bitter taste of betrayal. "I need time to think," he finally said, hanging up the phone and staring into space, deep in contemplation. As he pondered his next steps, he felt the weight of the movement he had sparked, knowing that many were depending on him to make the right choice. The fight was far from over, and he needed to decide whether to give those who had once doubted him a second chance or to continue down the path he had carved for himself, which had now become a symbol of resilience and change. Marcus sat in the sleek, glass-walled conference room of the investment firm once more, his heart pounding in his chest. The atmosphere was thick with tension, a stark contrast to the confidence he had built since their last meeting. He had come prepared, armed not just with his business acumen, but with the weight of experiences shared by countless entrepreneurs who had faced the same biases he had. The board members, their faces stoic and unreadable, seemed to regard him as an unwelcome specter rather than a potential partner. "Thank you for agreeing to meet with us again, Marcus," the lead investor, Richard Hargrove, said, his voice smooth yet lacking warmth. "We've been following your progress and would like to discuss potential collaboration." Marcus leaned forward, carefully adjusting his tie. "I appreciate the opportunity, but I must be candid. Your firm's initial rejection of my proposal was not just a setback. It was a reflection of the systemic issues that plague our industry. I've come here today to address that directly." His voice was steady, a mix of resolve and indignation. The board members exchanged glances, eyebrows raised. Hargrove cleared his throat, visibly unsettled. "We understand that there are challenges in the industry, but we're here to focus on your success. Success achieved despite your biases." Marcus interjected, his gaze unwavering. "I've built a company that not only thrives, but actively uplifts the community. And yet, during our last meeting, you directed questions at me that had nothing to do with my qualifications. It was about race. It was about prejudice." The room fell silent. Marcus could feel the tension crackling in the air as he continued to lay bare his experiences. "You dismissed my proposal because you couldn't see past the color of my skin. But look at what I've accomplished despite you." He gestured to a presentation he had prepared, showcasing his company's successes and how they had impacted the lives of countless individuals. Hargrove's expression shifted, a flicker of unease crossing his features. "We acknowledge that our initial assessment was flawed, but what?" Marcus challenged, his voice rising slightly. "Are you suggesting that I should be grateful for a second chance? This isn't about personal redemption. It's about accountability. It's about recognizing and rectifying the harm you've done." The other investors shifted uncomfortably in their seats. Marcus could see the realization dawning on them. They were no longer in control of the narrative. Their privilege was being laid bare, and he was determined to ensure they understood the consequences of their past actions. "Your firm is facing increasing scrutiny," Marcus continued, his voice steady but passionate. "And I have the evidence to prove that your practices have systematically marginalized Black entrepreneurs. You need to understand the gravity of what you've done." As he spoke, he felt a surge of empowerment, fueled by the stories of other entrepreneurs who had suffered similar indignities. Their voices echoed in his mind, urging him to push forward. Just as he was about to delve into the specifics of his findings, the door swung open, and a junior associate entered, looking flustered. "Excuse me," she said, interrupting the meeting. "There's something you need to see." She handed a file to Hargrove, who quickly scanned its contents, his expression darkening. "What is this?" he demanded, his voice rising. The tension in the room escalated, and Marcus felt a shift in the atmosphere. Curiosity mingled with apprehension. "It's about our dealings with minority businesses," the associate said, her voice trembling. "There are allegations of unethical practices, potential collusion with suppliers to undercut Black-owned firms." Marcus's heart raced as he processed the implications. It was a scandal that could shatter the firm's reputation, and he realized that the very platform he sought could serve as a weapon against them. "You think this is just about me?" he said, his voice steady. "This is about all of us who have been systematically discriminated against. You need to decide whether you'll change your ways or face the consequences." The tension in the room was palpable as Hargrove stared at Marcus, his facade of authority crumbling. This changes everything," he muttered, looking to his colleagues for support. Marcus took a deep breath, knowing that the moment had arrived. I'm willing to expose everything. If you choose to support my vision, we can work together towards real change. But if not, I'll take this to the public and ensure that your firm is held accountable for its actions. As he spoke, he felt a mix of fear and exhilaration. The stakes were higher than ever, and the path ahead was fraught with uncertainty. But Marcus understood one thing. He was no longer just a hopeful entrepreneur. He had become a voice for the voiceless, and he would fight for justice, no matter the cost. The backlash against the investment firm was swift and unforgiving. Marcus Thompson had unwittingly sparked a movement, and the wave of support he received was overwhelming. Social media buzzed with activity. Hashtags like #JusticeForMarcus and #EntrepreneurialEquity trended across platforms. News outlets covered his story, showcasing the resilience of a Black entrepreneur who refused to be silenced by systemic racism. As images of Marcus speaking passionately at rallies circulated, he became a symbol of resistance, a beacon of hope for many who felt marginalized in their own industries. I never imagined it would come to this, Marcus confessed to Dr. Evelyn Carter during one of their strategy sessions. They sat in a small, bustling cafe that had become their unofficial meeting spot. The smell of freshly brewed coffee filled the air, but the weight of their conversation was heavy. I just wanted to create something that could make a difference. Dr. Carter, a seasoned entrepreneur with a wealth of experience, smiled warmly. And that's precisely what you've done, Marcus. You've ignited a fire that many have longed to see. Change doesn't happen overnight, but you're leading the charge. As investigations into the firm began, many of its key figures were dragged into the spotlight. Reports emerged of their unethical dealings, particularly in how they had taken advantage of minority entrepreneurs, and the public was outraged. The firm that once dismissed Marcus now found itself on the defensive, scrambling to manage the fallout. Corporate leaders issued statements, but it was clear that their credibility had been severely tarnished. "Have you seen this?" Jamal exclaimed, shoving his phone into Marcus's hands as they met for lunch. The screen displayed an article detailing the firm's downfall, highlighting the evidence that had come to light, including the testimony of several whistleblowers. "They're being held accountable. This is huge, man." Marcus nodded, feeling a swell of pride and relief. "It is. It feels like we're finally making a difference." As the weeks progressed, Marcus's company flourished. The attention from the media and the support of the community translated into increased sales and new partnerships. He received accolades for not only his entrepreneurial success, but also for his commitment to social justice. His innovative tech solutions began to reach underserved communities, and he reveled in the positive impact he was making. In the midst of this whirlwind success, however, Marcus couldn't shake the feeling that something was amiss. While he was grateful for the support from his friends, family, and even his mentor, he sensed an underlying tension. Jamal had been acting a bit distant lately, and Marcus couldn't quite put his finger on why. One evening, as they sat in Marcus's office overlooking the city skyline, the atmosphere felt charged. Marcus turned to Jamal, who was staring out the window. "You've been quiet, man. Is everything okay?" Jamal hesitated, his fingers fidgeting with the hem of his shirt. "I've just been thinking about everything that's happened. It's a lot to process." "Yeah, it is," Marcus agreed. "But we're on the right path. We're making changes." Jamal finally turned to face Marcus, his expression serious. "What if I told you that I had a part in all of this?" Marcus furrowed his brow. "What do you mean?" With a deep breath, Jamal revealed, "I was the anonymous whistleblower who gathered evidence against that firm. I couldn't let them get away with what they did to you and others like us." The revelation hit Marcus like a freight train. "You? Why didn't you tell me?" "I didn't want to put you in danger," Jamal replied, his voice firm yet filled with regret. "I wanted to protect you, but I also knew I couldn't sit back and let them continue hurting people." Marcus's heart swelled with gratitude and pride. "Jamal, that's incredible. You helped so many people by doing this. I can't believe you kept it a secret." "I had to," Jamal said quietly. "But I knew it was the right thing to do. And seeing how everything unfolded, I'm glad I did." As Marcus processed this newfound information, He felt a surge of strength in their bond. They had faced the storm together, and now, with Jamal by his side, he felt more powerful than ever. Together, we can keep pushing for change, Marcus declared. This is just the beginning. We'll make sure that the voices of marginalized entrepreneurs are heard. Jamal nodded, a determined glint in his eye. Absolutely. We're not just fighting for ourselves. We're fighting for everyone who's been overlooked. In that moment, as they stood united in purpose, Marcus knew that their journey was far from over. Together, they would continue to challenge the status quo, ensuring that the corporate landscape would never be the same again. The fight was just beginning, but with allies like Jamal, Marcus felt ready to take on the world.